Trump's words coming back to bite him. Our K-File just unearthing example after example of the former president on the record railing against accusations of destroying evidence, when the allegations, of course, were levied at someone else, Hillary Clinton in this case. Now, prosecutors, of course, allege Trump employees Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira attempted to delete surveillance footage at Trump's request after the Justice Department issued a subpoena for the footage. Here's some of what our K-File found that Trump has said about this very issue when it came to Hillary Clinton.
She even created an illegal private email server. Then she deleted 33,000 emails to try and cover her tracks. 33,000 deleted or gone. Remember they used to say wipe the server? And what about the server? What about the server? How did that happen? How did that happen? She deleted her emails. People go to jail for that.
Andrew Kaczynski is the senior editor of the K-File, joins me now. So, Andrew, those are just a few of the examples that you have unearthed of Trump's hypocrisy, just a few.
Yeah, and it seems like at every different step of this investigation, there's a new Trump hypocrisy angle. First, it was when this investigation was first starting, all of those calls that we found that he made for lengthy jail sentences, first for Clinton and then for people in his own administration who he alleged had mishandled classified information. Then when we saw this indictment, it was those past attacks that he made on Clinton at the end of that 2016 campaign, where he was saying basically that if somebody, a president, was under a felony indictment, it would grind the government to a halt. He said it would create an unprecedented constitutional crisis. And then we finally see with these clips where he's talking about Clinton wiping the server, we see that hypocrisy there. Take a listen to this other comment on Clinton from 2016.
They even took a hammer to some of her 13 phones to cover up her tracks in obstruction of justice. These email records were destroyed after she received a subpoena. Remember that word, after she received a subpoena from Congress to turn them over. If you do that in private enterprise, it's a violation of the law. She did this after receiving a subpoena from the United States Congress.
Which, of course, is what they are saying is the very, very exact thing he did. And, she's the hammer, the infamous hammer. We don't know what he wanted them to do with this surveillance footage. We know that they seem to have, out of some level of incompetence, not actually succeeded at deleting it, which is sort of an interesting twist to this. And so much of the special counsel's case has been bolstered, even in this case of the surveillance video, right, Andrew, by text messages, right? They put them in the indictment, and you're literally reading the actual conversation that people had on texts. And you found a very specific example of Trump warning against this very thing, putting anything in writing.
Yeah, there's a very famous line on the show The Wire where they're talking about not taking notes of a criminal conspiracy theory. And this seems to be advice that Trump himself in the past has talked about taking when he's talking about, well, you didn't have text messages. When he made these comments in 2005, he's talking about email. Take a listen to Trump basically saying, don't put anything in writing.
What really fascinates me is email. I have friends. First of all, half of my friends are under indictment right now because they send emails to each other about how they're screwing people. Okay?
Right.
But it's unbelievable.
Why do people do
email
that?
is unbelievable. You'll talk on the phone. They can't even say hello. They don't want to say hello or goodbye.
Right.
And yet they'll write you a message that they're having, sex with 15 different married women. It's unbelievable.
So that was then. This is now, and it's going to be interesting to see how this stuff plays out as the case goes on.
Right, because as I said, you're just reading the text messages, like reading a novel, except for, of course, these are factual texts that the special counsel has obtained. All right, Andrew, thank you very much unearthing all of this. And now let's go to Stephanie Grisham, the former Trump White House press secretary. So, Stephanie, the irony of these comments that K-Files uncovered, you've heard from Trump over and over the years, right? This, obsession with Hillary Clinton and the server and the lock her up, right? I mean, it was the chant of his campaign. But it all takes on new meaning now.
Yeah, you're right, Aaron, and thanks for having me, by the way. It was as interesting as I was listening to those clips. I was considering who was the audience that Trump was talking to when he was talking about Hillary Clinton, and it was when he was running for office. He was talking to people he wanted to vote for him, and it just hit me literally 3 seconds ago. The people who are running against Trump should be doing this exact same thing. They should be using his own words but against him, and getting that very audience to understand the hypocrisy and also the deep amount of trouble that he's in right now with all of the investigations. But, aside from Chris Christie and a little bit from Will Hurd, you have not heard from any other Republican candidates really, slapping him the way he would slap Hillary on a daily basis.
Well, and we know from the indictment, of course, Stephanie, that Trump spoke to Carlos de Oliveira, his co-defendant now. He spoke to him on the phone for roughly 24 minutes. And after that conversation, de Oliveira tells another Mar-a-Lago employee that the boss wants the security footage deleted. And yet, de Oliveira, even now, Stephanie, has not yet turned on Trump. Why do you think he is so willing to risk everything for Trump, as, by the way, Walt Nauta appears to be?
I think that this is a design that Trump does to people. I think he chooses and selects vulnerable people to surround him, and I'm putting myself in that group, by the way. If you think about this new gentleman who I've never seen at Mar-a-Lago, and I spent a lot of time there, when you consider him, the fact that he started as a valet, he worked his way up, he really owes Trump. This is what he does. He chooses people who they work their way up, and we feel ingratiated towards him and like we owe him. And then it's really scary, the thought of turning on Trump right now. His lawyer is being paid for right now, and he has a job. You get out into that world without the Trump cushion, and it's very scary, and it's not very friendly, I've got to tell you. It's not lucrative, and you have to think about, how am I going to support my family? How will I ever pay for these legal bills? And so, I think it's a very basic necessity of survival that somebody like Carlos wouldn't turn on Trump.
Oh, it's pretty incredible. And of course, now possibly looking at very, very serious prison time. I mean, those security footage pleas carried, I believe, 20 years as a maximum. So he's got very serious decisions to make. Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate it as always.